We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel, ring the notification bell, smash the like button, share the video if you want to support this independent national college football YouTube channel with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that $sign where you make a comment and I'll get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. We've got the Georgia Bulldog. I just lost his comment. Oh, here it is. Don Scruggs. Just saying, the SEC brings the joy to my heart and tears to my eyes. God bless us all. And then we've got the LSU Tiger is in the house. Go Silo. Go Silo. Yes, we are going to go in. Whoops, that's not it. That is not it. We are going to go into the Holy Smokes Theater. And what is on the stage? What is on the stage? Last time we went in the Holy Smokes Theater, there was it was the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Left side of the stage, North Carolina. In the middle, the Miami Hurricane. Mascot, the Pelican, I guess, is standing at the right side of the stage. Popcorn and Coca-Cola is being served. Some nachos with, yes, cheese. No burgers whatsoever. No burgers. We don't even sell burgers because we are afraid you nut jobs are going to turn them into cheeseburgers. So we don't even have hamburgers in our theater. And look what is behind the Miami Hurricane. Ibis, whatever that animal is, whatever that bird is. There once was, let me begin. Again. There is this strange, old, ancient bird called the pelican. He can rip up food using the tip of his pelican. He can store weeks and weeks of food in his pelican. And I don't know how the hell he can. Salute to pelicans. That's an old Irish. Anyways, let's get. Boy, I just spilled all over the computer. A white ibis. Thank you, Hill in Florida. All right. So, behind this. God dang it, I just keep putting up the wrong image. Behind this white ibis is a SEC silo. And the title of this show is The SEC Silo is Gaining Traction Inside the Holy Smokes Theater. And if that takes hold, if it does, and we're not saying it is, we know they're climbing up the Silo Mountain. They've started the climb. They're not halfway up yet. But if they get there, that's going to change what happens in the Holy Smokes Theater. So we had to put the SEC Silo on the stage. We had to do it. And it's going to be there for a while. It is going to be there for a while. CFB Plus. What is this USF talk? I'm glad you asked. We've got a stacked show today. We've got an absolutely stacked show today. The University of South Florida. And let me ask the Big 12 people a question. People in the chat. Would you be okay? Would you be satisfied if the University of South Florida Bulls become school number 17 in the Big 12? Is USF a school that you would be interested in adding for school number 17? Before whatever happens in the ACC or during what happens, do you wait until the fallout, to the poaching of the ACC? Does USF, is that part of your own wishes when you're thinking about if the Big 12 has an opportunity, if it benefits the current 16 schools, the 16 institutions, if it benefits the Big 12 to go from 16 to 20, if there's an opportunity with ACC schools, if there's an opportunity, is USF one of those four that you would expand with? Because maybe just maybe, the University of South Florida is going to bring more value to your conference than you expect because of the deal, the possibility of the Big 12 striking a deal with Redbird Capital. We talked about this issue. We talked about it the day after, one day after it came out that the Big 12, Brett Yormark, was working on this Otro Capital, Redbird Capital type of deal with them. We talked about the possibility, because of the connections between USF, the chairman of the board at USF, and his position at Redbird Capital. We talked about this. Why are we bringing it up today? Because Jimmy Williams, longtime DC sports writer out in DC and all over the place, National Emmy Award winner, he talked about it today. Basically saying the same thing we said the day after it was announced that the Big 12 might be doing this Redbird Capital deal. And what Jimmy Williams has to say is pretty interesting. It kind of matches up what we reported at the time. Pretty interesting. So we're going to talk about the USF Bowls possibility going to the Big 12. We're going to talk about this silo that is in the Holy Smokes Theater. And we're going to talk about the real cap. What is the real cap when it comes to college football? Ross Dellinger talked about it today in an article. It's not $20.5 million, that rev share cap. It's more like $40 million. And if it's $40 million, if people are going over the cap double, then why even have a cap at this point? Why even have a cap? What are we doing here? So we've got a lot to get through today, and I want to start off. I keep promising that I'm going to give you the PATC, the peek around the corner, the rankings of the quarterbacks in the Big 12, the projected starting quarterbacks. I'm going to give you guys the rankings. I'm still not ready to do it today. First of all, we've got all these other stories that are popping up. But also, I've got notes. I've got notes written all over the place. I'm doing all the prep work. I'm breaking down all the tape. We're starting with the Big 12. Then we're going to go to the Big 10. Then we're going to go to the ACC. Then we're going to go to the SEC. I really don't look. Bear Bachmeier, he's number one. Yes, Trinidad Chambliss gets an injunction, gets a year of eligibility. Right before I came online, I saw Pete Thamels reporting that the judge was going on and on and on and on. And eventually it looked like Trinidad Chambliss was going to get another year of eligibility. And then Joey Aguilar is going to get another year of eligibility. And we can't even stick. It's a joke. The eligibility rules are a joke right now. They're a joke. And we make a rule and the judges don't care. The NCAA, which is the schools, the judges don't care. I'm at the point where I don't think there is a solution to any of this, by the way. Somebody's got a CBA. Do you think a CBA is going to stop teams from going over whatever the negotiations, the results of the negotiations on a cap? Do you think teams are going to abide by that in college football? They're not. The boosters are not going to abide by it. I'm not a believer. You all know I'm a believer in rules. I don't believe anybody's going to follow them. It's just going to be the wild, wild west until somebody tells me, Greg, we can do this thing. I have thrown in the towel. I have thrown in the towel. Future Heisman Gunnar Stockton. Yeah, and he just signed a deal with Georgia. He's coming back. Anyways, we're not gonna talk about Trinidad Chambliss today. We are gonna talk. I do want to have a little conversation in and around. I'm not gonna give you my rankings, but Bear Bachmeier, he's got to be number one. Sorry, Red Raider fans, Brendan Sorsby. Sorry, Arizona Wildcat fans, Noah Fafita. You got to have the Superman, Bear Bachmeier, number one. I mean, right now I've got Bachmeier, Sorsby, Fafita, Dampier, Avery Johnson, Connor Wegman, Drew Mestemaker at number 7. I got DJ Legway at number 11. Drew Mestemaker at number 7. Am I being a complete idiot for having him at number 7? Should I have him number 3 or number 2? Should I have him number 14? This is a guy who never started a high school football game. I don't think, maybe in his senior year, I don't think so. He came in to North Texas as the 6th string quarterback on the depth chart. Julian Lewis. Let me see. Julian Lewis. Let me check it out. Okay, I'll give you my whole rank. This is not official. This is not official. This is not official. Not official. Bear Bachmeier, number 1. Brendan Sorsby, number 2. Noah Fafita, number 3. 5th-year quarterback. Outstanding season last year. Devin Dampier, number 4. Is that a little too high? I don't think so. He was better than Avery Johnson last year. I've got Avery Johnson, number 5. I got Connor Wegman, number 6, and you guys know how much I like Connor Wegman. He's finally healthy. Had a brilliant year at Houston. He's coming back. Number 7, Drew Mestemaker. Is that really dumb of me, or... Go watch his tape. Go watch his tape. Hey, CFP Plus, I will get to it when I get to it. You always want to rush me. We've got a lot to talk about here. I will get to it when I get to it. Yes, we've heard things about USF. That's why I talked about it the day after the whole thing came out. We've heard about it. There's chatter behind the curtain on it. But then again, the Big 12 is not completely... yes, there's interested in USF. Absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. And it definitely doesn't mean it's going to happen. There's nothing imminent is going to happen. I know CFP Plus, but you always, like, every time you come on here lately... You say, I gotta go. Tell me, this is not how the show works. Not how the show works. I got a lot to talk about. Lots to talk. Other people want me to talk about other things right away. Everybody relax. Let me go through these rankings. Whew. Okay. Number 7, Drew Mestemaker. Number 8, Cutter Boley, Kentucky. Transfer from Kentucky, excuse me. Alonzo Barnett. Pretty good season last year at James Madison. You've got Jaden Craig, who is who's got a lot of steam in the NFL circles. He came from Harvard. Michael Hawkins, I got him at number 12. It's hard. I don't even know if he's going to be the starting quarterback at West Virginia, but he's got some talent. He's got a lot of skill. Highly recruited. Transferred from Oklahoma. I've got Jalen Rayner, transfer, coming in for the Iowa State Cyclones. Can do a lot of things. Julian Lewis, I got him at number 14. Am I being too tough on Julian Lewis? 15, J.C. French. And then 16, Cole Ballard, the Kansas Rock Chalk Jayhawks started quarterback. And by the way, don't take my rankings too seriously. If you know your quarterback is going to be better than my ranking, well, go for it. Look, last year, everybody had Drake Lindsay as the 18th best quarterback in the Big Ten last year. We talked about it. The Minnesota Golden Gopher quarterback. And I kept saying, I don't blame anybody. None of you have watched him play. None of you. None of you. But I was pretty confident in the young man. In his freshman season, he threw 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, with a team that could not run the ball, nor could they protect him. He had an outstanding freshman season, but he was ranked number 18. So one of the names that I put down just now from 12 to 16 is probably going to have a great year in the Big 12. So don't worry about it. That's not my official rankings. I'm telling you guys, I'm working on it. But there is, other than Bear Bachmeier and Brendan Sorsby, it is difficult to rank the Big 12 quarterbacks. The projected starters for the 2026 season. We've got Ricky Tungate. We've got a stack show. We've got an absolute stack show. We'll get to it as fast as we can. Ricky Tungate, gifted membership. The incredible Ricky Tungate, incredible 50-50. Got the gift membership. Incredible. When you get an opportunity, please say thank you to the generosity, Ricky Tungate, and both of you are knighted Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger. Thank you, Ricky Tungate. Welcome to the family. Incredible 50-50. Appreciate you coming on in. And we've also got a super chat, Christopher Hooter. Christopher Hooter, LSU Tiger. Lane Kiffin, the new head coach of the LSU Tigers, was at the New Orleans Pelicans NBA basketball game last night. $5 holla. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. Greg, missed last show. I do not blame the Big Red for flirting with the Big 12 after the over-the-top shut it down Big 10 2020 COVID hyperventilating protocols. All right. Thank you for the $5 holler. I think it's probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard over one season, over a COVID year. And by the way, Bill Moose didn't even bring that up. And he's been on interviews and he's not even bringing that up as the reason. He thought it would be a better fit for Nebraska. He's not even using COVID as the reason. So, If Nebraska wants to miss out on $350 million for the next 10 years, don't let the door hit you on the way out. But obviously, they're not leaving. And obviously, it was a very stupid idea of Bill Moose. And for Ted Carter to even consider it for a heartbeat has got me doubting about Ted Carter, to be honest with you. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. I appreciate the $5 holler. Thank you so very much. We've got Skaven. Yes, a Nebraska Cornhusker. New member of the family, but a long time family member of the Peek Around the Corner. Welcome to Early Peek Cloak and Dagger. Thank you, sir. You are officially knighted, Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger. Redhead, looks like your story. It was not my story. It was Bill Moose's story. Looks like your story about the former Nebraska athletic director in the Big Ten has gotten national traction. Thank you, Redhead, for coming on in. Look, 95% of the Nebraska Cornhusker fans, if you go read their message board, talking about Bill Moose's book, they're like, what an embarrassment. Thank God he's out of Lincoln. Thank God he's no longer the athletic director. Nebraska Cornhusker fans do not want to leave the Big Ten. Of course they don't. They've had some very difficult years lately in football. Basketball, look what they're doing. Women's volleyball, look what they're doing. An incredible fan base. Football has been a tough sled lately, but they're not gonna leave the Big Ten. They're not leaving the Big Ten. Bulls fan, I've seen Mestemaker play in the AAC last year. I don't know if I'm 100% sold on him. The guy can destroy the bad teams. Threw for 608 against Charlotte, but he's had trouble with good teams. I have read, and I can't remember where I read it, and when I do the official Big 12 rankings on the projected quarterbacks, I'm going to find the article and I'm going to read it. It is from an NFL scout. And he says Drew Mestemaker has the perfect perfect mechanics. If you want to teach a guy to throw a football, you want to throw it like Drew Mestemaker. Quick feet, sets the ball up high, got a great arm. So I don't know, man. I don't know. He should have gotten a Heisman nod. For what he was up against, Don Scruggs, having the re-elected mayor of Louisville City rooting for him every week, Drake Lindsay had to carry a lot of weight. And I mean that literally and figuratively and everything else. All right, let me go through a roll call real quick. Karan Shakar, the Sooner Bruce Harris, the Big Lubbock is in the house. Don Scruggs, the other Gygax. Stormy Cyclone, Canes fan is in the house. Rod is here. Jay is here. Healing, Florida. Doubles to Mazda. The Terrapin, D5 Terps, Bimba 75, 79. Mountaineer Memes is in the house. USF, I don't dislike that idea, but do you think Oregon State, Boise State, and maybe UConn before USF? No, I think USF, no disrespect to Oregon State, Boise State, or UConn, but I think USF would be ahead of all those for the Big 12 and the ACC. The Big 12, whoever they add in that blend, you got to have another big market come on aboard. You got to have another big market to come on aboard for the Big 12. And USF would fulfill that box. They would check that box. Amy is in the house. MBM Go Pokes is here. Stormy Cyclone. My prof. Do you have a take on the Pac-12 schedule? Yes. Specifically on the 12-week flex game schedule and the Pac having a home conference championship game. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. For now, I like it. They have a flex weekend on week 13. Week 13, they have a flex weekend in which I don't know all the rules around it. But again, they have a regular season week, the last week of the season, where nobody is scheduled to play anybody. I think they know if they're going to be home or away on that week. Like every Pac-12 team knows if they're going to be home or away on that week 13, but they don't know who they're playing. And what the Pac-12 is trying to do is they're trying to engineer the best Pac-12 championship game that they can get. I believe that's what's going on. I haven't really read enough about it, but I think that's what's going on. It's interesting. It's good for the G6 to be able to experiment on their schedule and whatnot. I like the attempt. I don't know if I'm going to like the results. Caleb Ramirez is in the house. Thanks for coming on in, Caleb. Appreciate it. Antoine Johnson, the Sun Devil. It makes zero financial sense for the Big 12 to add teams in the West. And I don't think they're going to. I agree with the Sun Devil and Antoine Johnson. John Dry is in the house. Sam is here. Espitox Rutgers is in the house. Bob Swanger, Penn State, Jimmy Austin. It's un-American not to have burgers at your theater. Well, we're not going to do it. We can't trust you people. We cannot trust you people to change the burger into a cheeseburger because we have to have the nacho cheese for the chips, for the Tostitos. So we're not going to eliminate the chips and the cheese. So we had to eliminate the hamburgers because we cannot trust the people that walk into the Holy Smokes Theater. The architect is in the house. CFB Plus is here. Or maybe he's gone already. Bull Fans is in the house. Ben White, go Utes. Nathan is here. Would be a great 20th, not 17. Virginia Tech Holkey is in the house. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. I do want to say thanks for those who come on in. I very much appreciate it. Badger Born Mouth Fan is here. ED BMD is in the house. So Mad Gopher, when's Nebraska leaving the Big Ten? They're not leaving the Big Ten. Not leaving the Big Ten. Or they better not be. Florida Man is in the house. Goal Knowles. Greg Flugar, literally millions of the Monty Show. Thank you, Ben White. Appreciate it. Rich Austin is in the house. Greg the Gold. Time for P2 to go in their own silos. Gold Black 45. The Big 12 should get USF. Have Orlando and Tampa in your pocket. Gary Partridge is in the house. Taylor on the Tubes, Go Pokes is in the house. Movie Time Blues. I wonder what the Oklahoma State Cowboy fans here. Taylor on the Tube, MBM. I wonder what they think of my having Drew Mestemaker at number 7 in the Big 12 quarterback ranking. It's not official, but I've got him at number 7. I'm guessing you guys think that is too low, that he should be higher on the list. DLB is in the house. Jose. Fight on. Jose is in the house. Tom DeBay. Josh No is in the house. All right. I appreciate you all coming on in. Let's get to the show. We've got an absolute stack show. Absolute stack show. But I do want to thank Ricky Tungate, Christopher Hooter, Skaven, yes, for your donations. I appreciate it. And we've got a super chat from the Michigan Wolverine. Amazing Blue, thank you for the $5 holler. Greg, if the SEC goes into a silo, does the Big Ten go first and take the teams they want, or still wait for the SEC to go first? I don't want to ever insinuate that the Big Ten is going to wait for the Southeastern Conference to go first. But I do understand why people think I say that, but I don't really say that. I happen to think unless Notre Dame calls the Big Ten, and I think the walls are closing in on Notre Dame, and especially if the Southeastern Conference goes to a silo, I just happen to think the Southeastern Conference has the advantage over the Big Ten in getting the teams, the institutions that they want over the institutions that the Big Ten wants, with the exception of Notre Dame. But if Notre Dame doesn't call first, then I think the Southeastern Conference has the advantage, and that's why I think they're going to strike first. So that I wanted to clear that up. If the Southeastern Conference goes into their own silo, and we're going to have more on that today, this is something that, we're at DEFCON 1 right now, right? Between the Big Ten and the Southeastern Conference. We've got more clues today that is true. And the Southeastern Conference going to their own silo is not DEFCON 1. That's a nuclear bomb. That is a nuclear bomb. And I'm talking college football, okay? I'm not talking real life. I'm talking college football. But that's a nuclear bomb going off in college football. And because it's a nuclear bomb going off in college football, I'm going to try to give you the best peek around the corner that I possibly can. But if a nuclear bomb goes off in college football, there's going to be a lot of impact that is going to be very difficult to get a good peek around the corner on, because everything is being melted. Everything is being shattered. Everything is being destroyed around it. I mean, we're talking maximum impact if the Southeastern Conference goes silo. Or if they go silo but are still connected or tethered a little bit with the Big Ten. If the SEC goes silo, who did Mississippi State just cancel? Somebody let me know in the chat room. I do not remember. Today it was announced that Mississippi State just canceled a game against a Power 4 team, a non-conference game. Can somebody tell me who that is? Texas Tech. There it is. Thank you, Bulls fan. I mean, it's so if it happens, to get back to your question that I'm not able to answer, Amazing Blue. If it happens, I think the Southeastern Conference, that means the Southeastern Conference isn't going to wait for any planes to land. In other words, if they make the decision to go silo, that means they made a decision that, and I don't expect this to be imminent either. None of this is imminent, although as we get late into 2026, now I think people are going to start panicking, flat out panicking, and possibly for good reason. But if they're going to go silo, that means the Southeastern Conference doesn't believe that the House NCAA settlement is going to get codified. That means they're going to be unrestrained. Unrestrained. The Southeastern Conference being unrestrained. And in that case, I think they're going to really be aggressive in expanding their footprint and doing a whole lot of things that we can't even imagine right now. Thank you for the $5 holler. Amazing Blue. I very much appreciate it. All right, let's get to our program here. Before we talk about the University of South Florida and the Big 12, I just want to bring up real quick this Ross Dellinger article. And then after we go through this and we talk about USF and the Big 12, then we're going to be walking into the Holy Smokes Theater. And the first thing you're going to see is that big old silo, SEC silo on the stage. Ross Dellinger, how athletic departments are blowing past the revenue share salary cap. For roughly a year now, one figure has been synonymous with athlete compensation in college sports, $20.5 million. That's the revenue share pool available to each school to distribute to all of its athletes as defined in year one of the NCAA's House settlement. Well, on July 1st, that salary cap increase is going to go to $21.3 million. Now, there's lots of parts. There's parts of this article that we're not going to go through. Let's boil down to the simplest of terms. Most power conference schools will use the full $21.3 million for the revenue share, meaning that they will pay the College Sports Commission a luxury tax of $500,000. Now let's talk about the second and perhaps the most important figure heading into year two of the cap. It ain't no $21.3 million. It ain't no $21.3 million. It's $40 million. That's the real number. And how do we get to the real number? Let's face it. $40 million. This is the real cap. At least at the highest level of the sport. Schools plan on exceeding the cap by nearly double through an assortment of third-party avenues exempt from the cap. The old-fashioned way, collectives and boosters, multimedia rights partners and their corporate sponsors, Playfly and Learfield, and apparel brands, Adidas, Nike, and Under Armour. And we're going to go through how this is going to be done here. We're going to talk about it in the simplest of terms. Now, you PATC Einsteins, you're very intellectual. You can understand it, but I can't. I'm a simple guy. I'm not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator. I just know where every refrigerator is in every place I walk into, but I'm not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator. So we gotta break this down so even I can understand. And that's what we're gonna do. All right? That's what we're gonna do. In fact, just recently, Texas Tech Athletic Director Kirby Holcutt took donors inside of the Tech's aggressive plan to attack year two of the cap. Kudos to the industrious reporter Don Williams of the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. He did a great job, who documented the Holcutt's presentation to the Red Raiders Club on Tuesday. For one, Tech plans to use all of its $21.3 million in revenue share pool next year. In fact, Tech will shift $1 million used this year as a revenue share payments for the Olympic sport athletes to football players. Tech chose against adding scholarships this year as not to reduce its rev share pool. With that requirement now eliminated, the school plans to add 80 new scholarships next year. 80 new scholarships. Basically, the school is providing Olympic sports with $2.5 million worth of additional scholarship instead of the $1 million in rev share. So they're moving the $1 million in rev share from the Olympic sports basically to the revenue sports basically of football. But they're adding $2.5 million in scholarships to the Olympic sports. Okay. Secondly, Texas Tech plans on redirecting as much as $10 million in sponsorship money from the athletic department to its roster through third-party NIL deals, facilitated by multimedia rights partner Learfield and its apparel partner Adidas. Many schools are doing this, as we noted in the story about LSU's $3.5 million play fly back offer to quarterback Brendan Sorsby. So let me just, I'll get back to that here. So basically, these deals, these Learfield deals, these Adidas deals, they've always been around, ladies and gentlemen. We used to call them third tier money. That's what we used to call third money that's not conference payout money, money that's not directly tied to your TV deal, money that's not in your third tier TV money, which is the SEC network. It's third or Big Ten network or ACC network. This is third tier money. Every school has this money. Some have a lot more than others. Your coach's show that's on your local channel. Your coach's radio show. That's all Learfield money. Your Adidas, your merchandise. There's this bucket of money that has been created by schools for years. The bigger brands have the bigger advantage, right? Some of that money, or all of that money in certain buckets, is no longer going into your athletic department coffers. It's going from them to your student athletes in NIL deals. They're redirecting that money to the players. So what you're going to see is you would have if it wasn't going to the players, you would have more money in your athletic department revenues to pay for this or that facilities, but it's being redirected. And so far, the College Sports Commission, so far that we know of, is letting a lot of this go. It's because of the courts and the NCAA House settlement and the House lawyers. And remember, they made an agreement that you could do some of this stuff. So this is how this NIL money this money that's been coming in is now being redirected as NIL money. And it can be a lot of it. So let's go back to the article. Holcut is one of the first to announce such a redirect in a public way. A lot of this has been on the down low. But Holcut, by the way, this is not the first thing that the Texas Tech Red Raiders athletic director has leaked in private or in public. He is the Trev Alberts of the Big 12. Hint, hint, wink, wink, now that the Baylor athletic director is gone. But anyways, Holcut is the one of the first to announce such a redirect in a public way, telling donors at the event that he's asked partners Learfield and Adidas to build NIL opportunities directly with their student athletes in lieu of Tech keeping that revenue for athletic department. A lot of schools are doing this. A lot of schools are doing exactly this. And some are way more successful than others because they got bigger third tier money that's coming on in. Finally, there's another bucket of cash for athletes. Any and all third-party NIL deals with athletes through outside brands and business affiliated with the school, or in Tech's case, the creation of events that generate dollars for athletes. Holcutt told donors that the school is exploring plans to host a 12-team fantasy basketball camp this summer, with Tech's men's basketball players coaching the teams. The Tech's men's basketball players are going to be coaching a team fantasy, and that's going to be bringing in another $5 million. What you fans won't pay for. What you fans won't pay for. Is all of this legal? You may be asking how these sponsorship dollars are passing through the College Sports Commission NIL Go Clearinghouse. Well, later this spring and summer, we'll see if all of them truly gain the clearinghouse approval. So far, these well-established mainstream brands and businesses are having success in crafting legitimate deals for athletes that pass the clearinghouse thresholds. So no, a lot of these schools are not cheating. As long as the rules are written as they are, they're passing the clearinghouse thresholds. We don't have a $20 million. We don't have a $20.5 million cap. We don't have a $21.3 million. We've got about a $40 million cap. If you're keeping tabs, Tech and many other schools is compensating athletes in 4 buckets next year, here in 2026. Additional scholarships, $2.5 million. Direct revenue share of $21.3. Direct from the athletic department to your student athletes. Now, nobody's going above $21.3 in direct revenue share, but that's a big bucket. The third, redirection of corporate sponsorship money of $10+ million. And number 4, outside NIL through brands and events, another $5 million. Add it all up, and you get quite close to what is becoming the real cap in college athletics. $40 million. $40 million at the highest level. Okay. I was going to talk about that anyways. But I think it was important to talk about, especially today, because we are about to talk about later on in the monologue the SEC silo that is standing on the stage in the Holy Smokes Theater. All right? So, keep that in the back of your mind. But first, we're going to go to the Big 12, USF. James Williams, we call him Jimmy Williams here, Sports Talk Florida. Sports Talk Florida. Today, February 12th, 2026. Big 12 expansion watch. Private equity power play links USF directly to conference growth strategy. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. I don't know if I made that worse. The Big 12 is in pursuit of a landmark private equity partnership has reshaped the national expansion conversation, and few schools sit closer to the center of that movement than the University of South Florida. Multiple business outlets report that the conference is in advanced negotiations on a deal worth up to $500 million, involving Redbird Capital Partners and Tampa-based Weatherford Capital through their co-investment platform, Collegiate Athletic Solutions. Weatherford. Again, we talked about this the day after it was announced that the Big 12 was seriously looking at this plan. The proposal would create a new commercial arm for the Big 12, while offering each member school access to a $30 million line of credit. The conference would not give up equity, but it would gain a long-term strategic partnership with two of the most aggressive investment firms in sports. For USF, the connection is direct. Weatherford Capital was co-founded by Will Weatherford, the chairman of the board, the chair of the USF Board of Trustees, and one of the most influential business figures in Florida. His firm's role in the negotiations has fueled widespread speculation that the Bulls are better positioned than ever for a future Big 12 invitation. Again, we talked about this one day after the announcement that Weatherford Capital, Redbird Capital, could be part of the Big 12's plans to grow their conference. A line of credit, $500 million, $30 million credit for each institution if they want it. And now it's being picked up by Sports Talk Florida. James Williams. USF is no longer a regional brand. In the last 18 months, the Bulls have become one of the fastest rising national profiles in both football and men's basketball. That dual sports relevance is exactly what modern conferences want. Why Weatherford's role matters. Weatherford's dual presence in Tampa business community and USF governance structure places the Bulls in a unique position. While the Big 12 has not formally announced expansion plans tied to the deal, the optics are impossible to ignore. We do know, ladies and gentlemen, that Brett Yormark wants to expand the conference. He tried to expand it with UConn. One of the reasons why he tried to expand it with UConn is because there are going to be some private equity companies, firms that would want UConn in the conference. UConn brings a big regional market, brings the New York market more into the fold of the Big 12. This is what Brett Yormark wanted. The Big 12 presidents so far have said no. But the motivations of Brett Yormark going after UConn, besides the basketball brands, big basketball brands, is the market and private equity to accommodate private equity. We've talked about that over and over again. Well, USF does that for Brett Yormark and the Big 12. They do it as well. A USF trustee helping engineer the conference's largest financial partnership to date naturally elevates the school's visibility. Naturally it does. Multiple media outlets, including Sports Talk Florida, reports that the Big 12 talks with Redbird and Weatherford Capital are expected to conclude soon. Again, this was written today. In fact, this was just put out. This was published a little bit before we came on live. The Big 12 talks with Redbird and Weatherford Capital are expected to conclude soon, with the deal projected to deliver up to $500 million in new capital. Our friends at Front Office Sports Ads, now this is the money shot number one of the article. PATC money shot number one of the article. Our friends at Front Office Sports Ads, that the proposal includes retainer fees, commissions, and a revenue sharing structure, signaling a long-term business alignment rather than a one-off cash infusion. A recent report by the Heartland College Sports further notes that the negotiations have accelerated, with new details emerging weekly as the conference positions itself for future growth. What this means for USF. USF already checks the traditional expansion boxes. A top 25 media market, a new on-campus stadium, strong academics, and a rise in the athletic department. AAU as well. It ties the Bulls to the Big 12, not just competitively, but financially and strategically. In an era where conferences are becoming commercial enterprises, relationships with capital partners matter. And USF is uniquely connected to one of the firms driving the Big 12's next phase. Remember, Weatherford is the board of trustees at USF, and he is a managing partner at Weatherford Capital. The bigger picture. This deal signals a shift in how college conferences operate. Private equity is no longer circling college sports. It is now embedded in its future. The Big 12 is positioning itself as the first major conference to fully embrace that model. And USF is positioned closer to the center of that movement than any other non-member. Whether expansion follows remains to be seen, but the business ties are undeniable. And in modern college athletics, business often drives the next realignment move. So that is James Williams. Interesting article. And again, it basically mimics what we talked about the day after that news came out that the Big 12 was looking to get in with Ortro Capital, Redbird Capital, Weatherford Capital being a part of it. Really interesting. Now, I have heard as well that we're going to get a decision on the Big 12 doing this type of deal, and we're going to hear about it real soon. I've heard the same. I think that is the chatter behind the curtain. We're going to know pretty soon here if the Big 12 has pushed this into the end zone. We're going to find out real soon here. And if they do, if they get this done, does that mean the Big 12 is going to add the University of South Florida anytime soon? I don't think so. But I do believe if we're going to talk about Big 12 expansion, and we're going to talk about Big 12 expansion, we've got three different buckets of Big 12 expansion. Number one, UConn. UConn is going to remain as a talking point when it comes to possible Big 12 expansion. Number 2, ACC fallout. Once there's poaching, if there's poaching, if the ACC doesn't reimagine themselves, if a miracle doesn't happen for the ACC, when the top brands leave to the Big Ten and the ACC, the fallout of the ACC is another bucket of expansion candidates for the Big 12. Your Louisville, your Pittsburgh, possibly Virginia Tech, and others. And then the third bucket is the University of South Florida. I really do believe that. I think they're on par with the UConn candidacy, if not a little bit of ahead of the UConn candidacy. Whatever the Big 12 does next in expansion, whatever they do next, adding a big market has to be part of it for the Big 12. It has to be part of the blend. Your mark will see to it that a big market has to come on board in the Big 12. I got Edward the Auburn Tiger. Thanks for coming on in. Haven't seen you in a while. Trinidad Chambliss is eligible to play in 2026. Hotty toddy. Now they're going to be back up. They're going to be competing. They're going to be right with Georgia. Sorry, Don and Wendy Scruggs. Ole Miss is going to be right up the top of the conference. Tom DeBay, do you think Weatherford will insist? I don't think so. Because if he did, I don't think the deal would happen. That's my take on it. Greg, how did you get that Minuteman missile silo? Well, I'm not going to tell you how we got that in there. That is a secret. We had to grease the skids to get that in there for sure. All right. Let's go into the Holy Smokes Theater. TotalProSports.com. College football news. College football playoff pressure forces the SEC to act as the Big Ten is thrown under the bus. The Big Ten demanded a 9-game SEC schedules, then blocked playoff changes while premier matchups like Alabama, Ohio State face cancellation. This SEC did what the Big Ten asked, and now it's paying the price. The conference, the SEC, they added a 9th game and mandated every team schedule a Power 4 opponent outside the league. The Big Ten should do the same. I've been saying that for months. The Big Ten is being soft when they don't make it a requirement to add at least one non-conference Power 4 opponent onto every team's schedule. Back to the article. The Big Ten pushed for those changes, and then they never adopted the same standards. They stabbed the Southeastern Conference in the back. Premium series are getting axed because the playoff committee decisions keep punishing teams that play hard schedules. Well, you know what solves all that? The Army of 24. The Army of 24, 444426. PATC money shot number 1 of this article. Paul Feinbaum told 97.1 The Fan in Columbus on Friday that Alabama and Ohio State probably won't play their scheduled 2027 2028 home and home. I sincerely doubt the Alabama game is going to happen based on what I've heard from Alabama's athletic director. Feinbaum said, Alabama already canceled West Virginia and moved South Florida back 6 years. The Crimson Tide opens 2026 against East Carolina and hosts Florida State, then plays Chattanooga in November. Paul Feinbaum, I sincerely doubt the Alabama is going to happen. Alabama and Ohio State. We're going to circle back to that. We are going to circle back to that. Buckeye Greg, the SEC is a coward. Don Scruggs, Georgia Bulldogs, there is no honor in the Big Ten anymore. The Bulldog Report called out the hypocrisy on Monday. The Big Ten begged for 9 SEC games. The SEC delivered and wrote in the Power 4 rule. The Big Ten never followed through. Texas went 10-3 last year, but missed the playoffs after losing to Ohio State in week 1. Schedule a group of 5 team instead and the Longhorns get in. Or if Texas beats Florida, Mark Ingram questioned why Alabama should keep the Ohio State Buckeye series in December. Kalen DeBoer sits on shaky ground after back-to-back 4-loss seasons. Added another potential loss against an elite program makes 0 sense when 2 defeats typically kill playoff hopes. The committee created this mess by devaluing the schedule strength. What are you talking about? They just tweaked it. They got more strength of schedule, part of their metrics. 5 SEC teams went in the playoffs. All right, back to the article. Championships don't decide who runs the sport. Ratings do. The SEC put 12 schools in the top 23 for viewership last season. The Big Ten managed 6. LSU won 7 games and fired Lane Kiffin in October, but still ranked 7th nationally in viewers. The SEC handed out $1.03 billion to member schools on Thursday. ESPN writes those checks because people watch SEC games. 9 FBS conferences want 16 playoff teams. The Big Ten blocks it alone. The SEC could walk away with the other 8 leagues and build a separate postseason. And finally, in the article, Alabama backing out of the Ohio State triggers a domino effect. And I agree with that. Other schools would dump premier games if losses to elite teams wrecked playoff chances. The SEC moved to 9 games at the Big Ten's request, then watched the Big Ten refuse the same treatment. The committee rewards weak scheduling over quality competition. Something breaks soon. Something breaks soon. Something breaks soon. You got Matt Hayes, the USA Today. He's always at the Southeastern Conference Media Days, right? He's always talking to all the podcasters, all the reporters, giving his opinion. He writes an article last week. We went through it together. Basically threatening the Big Ten, threatening everybody. The SEC can go alone Maybe we should go alone. We would have more money if we went alone. And now this article. But the most important part of it, of this article, is not what the columnist said. It is what Paul Feinbaum said. Paul Feinbaum told 97.1 The Fan in Columbus on Friday that Alabama and Ohio State probably won't play their scheduled 27-28 home and home. I sincerely doubt that Alabama is going to happen. The game is going to happen based on what I've heard from Alabama's athletic director. And why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Hold on one second. Look, you are everybody. This columnist is correct. The Big Ten should have a requirement. The Big Ten should have a requirement that every Big Ten school plays at least one Power 4 opponent in their non-conference schedule. I absolutely agree with that. I have called the Big Ten soft. I've called Tony Petitti out. I have used Charmin toilet paper in my title screen when talking about the Big Ten softness. Why won't they make that requirement? I completely agree with the complaints from the Southeastern Conference on that. However, let's not get it twisted. Let's not get it twisted. Most of the Big Ten schools had been playing a Power 4 team in their non-conference schedule. We're talking 90% of the Big Ten schools. And they've been doing this for years. Years! While the SEC has played 8 conference games and then 1 power conference game. A lot of them have been going 9, while the Big Ten has been going 10. And let's not get it twisted. Ohio State is going to have a Power 4 opponent on their non-conference schedule every single year. So in 2027, in 2028, Alabama is thinking about canceling this series with the Buckeyes. The athletic director has told Paul Feinbaum. Paul Feinbaum announces that he sincerely believes that this series is going to be canceled. And that doesn't have to do with Alabama being worried that Ohio State is not going to be playing 10 Power 4 opponents those 2 years, because the Buckeyes will. That has to do with a bigger elephant. No pun intended. Alabama. No pun intended. No pun intended, Crimson Tide. There's a bigger elephant in the room. There's a bigger object in the room. And that's that big silo in the room at the Holy Smokes Theater. If the 2027 series, 2027, 2028, again, the Buckeyes and the Crimson Tide, if that series is canceled, and if it is, it's going to happen pretty soon, most likely this year, we're going to hear about it, especially when Paul Feinbaum is being told by the athletic director, especially that Paul Feinbaum is talking about it in public. That is a major indicator of what the Southeastern Conference is putting on the table. Remember, the University of Georgia's President Moorhead said he's got a handful of SEC presidents in favor of the Southeastern Conference going silo. And if there's more and more people joining, he's going to present that to Greg Sankey. Greg Sankey's already talked about it in public even before he got the plan, the presentation from the University of Georgia's president. If Alabama is on that list, if Alabama is joining Georgia on that list of schools that are ready for the Southeastern Conference to go silo, and what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? The biggest part of the Southeastern Conference going silo is that they would be a conference competition only. In other words, the 12 regularly season games that the Southeastern Conference teams would play would be all against themselves. If you are going to, that is what the SEC silo is all about. Also, doing your own rules, your guardrails, your enforcement, all that stuff, of course, is included. But if you're going to cancel the Buckeye-Alabama series, you're going to cancel that Monday. You're going to cancel those elevated ticket sales. You're going to cancel that exposure. You're going to cancel the Buckeyes and the Crimson Tide. Well, that's the canary in the silo. That's the canary in the silo. That means they're another step going in that direction. And then you talk about the cap. You're talking about now when, and I try to explain this to people. When it was first reported that the Southeastern Conference is at least drawing up plans, Ross Dillinger reported it a while ago, that the Southeastern Conference was drawing up plans to possibly go silo because it's ungovernable. This 70 team, this 68 team, this association, this higher level Power 4 FBS level, this is ungovernable. We don't trust anybody outside our conference. Nobody's following the damn rules. A lot of people in the PATC family said, great. The Southeastern Conference, they don't want teams spending over the cap. They want to make sure that teams don't spend over the cap. Because they're poor, Greg. They're poor. And I kept saying the Southeastern Conference is not poor. They're wealthy. They're rich. They got plenty of schools. We just talked about the real cap is 40 million. The SCCS schools are going to be hitting that 40 million mark. Up and down the roster. They're not poor. In fact, it's the opposite. Yeah, they don't got a Cody Campbell. The state of Alabama's only got a couple of billionaires. Alabama has got lots of money. People want... Alabama is not poor. They're not. Do they have the advantage that they used to have? No, they don't, because everyone's paying players. But Alabama's not poor. LSU's not poor. These schools are not poor. $1.03 billion. Look at their conference payouts. Schools that are not in the SEC and the Big Ten, their boosters have to spend $35 to $40 million just to get caught up with the Auburns, the Alabama, the LSU before the season even starts, to match the revenue, the resources that the SEC schools have. And I know a lot of people, oh, Greg, you're an SEC homer. You've never liked the Big Ten because the Big Ten beats up on the Gophers. I get those DMs all the frickin' time. Cut it out. I'm not an SEC homer. I'm a Golden Gopher propagandist. Get it straight. Get it straight. The SEC is not poor. They're not, in fact. The $21.3 million rev share cap to $20.5 million the year before. If it was just an SEC silo, if it was just using the SEC athletic department money, taking that money and using the formula that the NCAA House settlement used to get the rev share cap, it would not be at $20.5 million. It would not be at $21.3 million this year. It would be in the high 20s. It would be in the low 30s. If it was just SEC data alone. SEC is not poor. If the SEC goes silo, and let's say the Big Ten then has to go silo, and if the Big Ten and the Big 12 goes silo, and let's say the Big 12 does, okay, we're not going to have a rev share cap. We're not going to do it. We're going to have antitrust. We believe, just like the SEC, because the reason, if they go in their own silo, remember, one of the reasons is because they believe they're going to have some antitrust violation protections. If the Big 12 does their own silo and they believe they have antitrust protection, some, and the Big 12 makes a decision that they're not going to have a rev share cap, the SEC is not going to have a rev share cap. The Big Ten is not going to have a rev share cap. And look at the revenue that the Southeastern Conference makes and what they're going to make in the future. My point is this. The Southeastern Conference is pissed off at the Big Ten. They're pissed. They're upset. They believe they got stabbed in the back. They went to a 9th conference game because they believe if they did that, the Big Ten would compromise with the 5+11. The Big Ten did not compromise. The Big Ten did not compromise. They don't trust the Southeastern Conference that it would jump from 16 to 24. The Big Ten doesn't trust the Southeastern Conference because the Southeastern Conference stabbed the Big Ten in the back in those advisory group meetings. And if you need more evidence, that we're at DEFCON 1 before today started, that the SEC is pissed off, that the Big Ten is pissed off, and the Big 12 and the ACC are pissed off at the Big Ten and the SEC. If you needed more evidence, the Buckeyes in Alabama dropping that series. There's no way that series should be dropped. No way. None. But if it does get dropped, that means the SEC has climbed another couple of miles up Silo Mountain. And maybe, just maybe, if that series gets dropped, maybe that's a big indication that they're near the summit of that mountain. So keep an eye on that Ohio State, Alabama. Keep an eye on any announcements. Because there's no way that series should be canceled. All right. Rich Austin, silos is the way to go to fix college football. Silo will not affect the ratings negatively. Wow. MM101 2MD, I would not trust the SEC either. The architect, this is broken logic. The SEC going in a silo doesn't hurt the Big Ten. Rich Austin, silent Tony Potasanki on Sankey. Chris Kenny, flaw in your argument. Neither the SEC nor the Big Ten are poor. As you stated, both these leagues have $30 million advantage. Yet you think there's enough parity to have 24 teams in the playoffs. Absolutely, I do. Absolutely. And part of that reason is because it's not, look, Again, I bring up the example of Iowa. Iowa was a damn good football team last year. They were coming on strong last year. They played Indiana tough. They played Oregon. They played that. Again, it's not just the ACC and the Big 12 parity. It's the growing parity in the Southeastern Conference of Vanderbilt, for example, and in the Big 10. Gophers are SEC homers. The guy behind the gas station told me. The 1.03 billion doesn't even count the Texas-Oklahoma ads. The SEC is poor. They don't have many economies in the SEC that can sustain this level of paying long term. I would respectfully disagree. I think the SEC, look at their ratings. They're undervalued. Even though their markets, I get it. I'm the one that's been telling people that the Big Ten ratings do not have to match the SEC ratings when it comes to delivering value to their media partners. We've talked about it. We've discussed it. But even then, the SEC ratings are sky high, and they're going to grow their footprint. The Southeastern Conference, no. I have said this since June 15th, 2024, when I got dragged over the coals. The SEC is going to go into some new markets that have a good they're going to go into some markets here that have disposable incomes that the national advertisers want in SEC country. And of course, the student population in the state of North Carolina, the state of Virginia. I think the SEC is going to be just fine. Okay, let's open up the phone lines here. Let's open up the phone again. Super chats, supersede everything. But the phone calls, we're opening up, and you can talk about anything in college football that your heart desires. The USF, University of South Florida Bulls, going in the Big 12. Do you think that might happen in the future? What do you think about the article by James Williams? Let me know. James Williams at Sports Talk Florida. Talk about the Holy Smokes Theater, the SEC silo. Let me know what you're thinking. 763-260-1333. And again, when you call, the floor is yours. You talk about anything in college football that your heart desires.
From
Patron, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling,
sir. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Patron, thanks for calling. The floor is yours.
Hey, good evening, Greg. Hey, man. So yesterday you had, or I guess 2 days ago, you had talked about there was going to be some big, Big 12 announcement from Brett Yormark regarding, I think, the basketball tournament.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear anything about that?
Yeah, they're using the LED glass.
Oh, I saw that.
Courts. Yeah, that was their big thing.
That's kind of a letdown.
I'm not a fan of that LED stuff. But then again, I'm older. I don't even one of the reasons. Well, there's a lot of reasons why I like AEW over WWE. Lots of reasons. But one of the reasons is that the WWE, for this old guy, when I turn the channel and it's a WWE event, all I see is these LED lights. All I see is all this lights. It's like a light show. And these advertisers changing on these screens, it's like, I can't watch that. I'd rather watch the nitty gritty old style. So I'm not going to be a fan of that Big 12. But then again, I don't watch the Big 12 conference basketball tournament. I don't watch college basketball that much. So it's not for me. It might work. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, Greg. That comes at sort of the intersection of a few different things. One is that if you kind of look at the NFL, NBA, and of course college football, their target demographic is not the old audience anymore, right? It's not the old folks. They're targeting a younger demographic, younger cohort, for the next generation of college football fans.
Yeah.
And what these fans value is oftentimes different from what the older folks value.
Yep.
You see this, for example, with the NFL halftime shows. They target younger, artists, like people that you would have never heard of.
Yep.
And you even see this, I think, in the SEC. I think, one thing I've thought about, Greg, is they do a good job of is sort of targeting the younger audiences. It's like all the SEC schools now have those LEDs where they do anytime a player scores a touchdown, it's like an LED light show. It's like you're in a nightclub or something, right?
Yeah.
And I got to say, ESPN typically does a pretty good job of sort of highlighting those, letting them show off their investment. That's part of that front porch of the university, try to make it seem cool and fun and engaging for the young fans. And, that kind of leads into the next thing, Greg, is, we as older fans, we maybe have certain attachments or a certain way that we view college football, but the younger audience, they kind of have probably a different attitude. And when you think about things like the silo, probably the SEC thinks, hey, we want to build our brand among, the new fan bases, whether it's the new young fan base, the next generation, or the international fan base. They probably feel like they have, somewhat of an edge, when it comes, or that's the best way to sort of maximize their advantages is to go into a silo. Is kind of my thought. I think if they've gamed it out. And the last thing I'll say is, there's a lot of talk as to how the silos will affect the viewership. But Greg, one thing I feel is the viewership is already pretty siloed. You've observed in the PATC chat at times where people will say that they only watch SEC or they only watch Big 10 or they only watch Big 12. And I think part of this is because, number one, there's already a limited number of slots in any particular Saturday, or even a Friday. You talked about, for example, the Big Ten wants to put games on Friday. Well, if you're a casual viewer or a young viewer, you're only going to pick one game to watch. Us college football sickos or diehards might try to juggle 2 or 3 games at once. But most of these people are already kind of effectively siloing themselves into one particular game at any time slot, right? It's difficult for them to sort of keep up with the broader picture. And I also think, Greg, this is just a personal opinion. I think, Greg, as the conferences become bigger and bigger, you need to play more conference games. And what that kind of means is if you only have 12 slots in the season, 12 or 13 or whatever, better to just go with a full conference schedule. I think it actually benefits the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, everybody to play more conference games. That Alabama-Ohio State game that gets canceled, probably they're going to replace it with a conference game. And I think for many of those SEC fans, that's probably more rewarding. You keep all the money in-house. You don't have to risk, a loss or something out of conference that can keep you out of a national playoff, something like that. I was thinking about how the Pac-12 and the Big 12 back in the day, or Pac-10, they used to play 9 conference games, round-robin schedule, which is nice. What's the point of being in a conference if you don't play everybody, if you don't go to all the stadiums, you don't have that sort of community feel. And so I think as these conferences look to expand, just go and play a full 12 conference games. I mean, that's going to be equally or even more rewarding than playing the out of conference games. And the last thing I'll say, Greg, is I think on social media, with things like YouTube, with the podcast, you already see one of the things I really think is cool is that it doesn't matter if you're SEC, Big 10, even Big 12. Everybody has their own forums, their own podcasts, their own pages now, where the internet was supposed to bring people closer together. But what you see is actually it has facilitated silos, whether it be like
Yep.
politically
Yes.
or whatnot. You see this in football, like, the Ohio State people have 11 Warriors, the Michigan people have MGO blog, the Big 12 people have their own podcasts and silos. It's kind of good in a way, like it allows for local and independent media to thrive. But the fans are already kind of mentally being siloed in. And again, especially if expansion happens, you're going to have like a full day of all Big Ten football, all SEC, all Big 12, more than you could possibly even consume in a single day. So that's all I got, man. You have a good one.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it. Great call. Great call. Beautiful call by Patron. And personally, it's one of the headwinds that I've had with this national show. This National College Football YouTube show, I try not to go into a silo. I talk about everything. I talk about the Big 12. I'll praise the Big 12. I'll rip on the Big 12. I'll praise the Big 10. I'll rip on the Big 10. I praise the SEC. I rip. I'm trying to come this at a now I have my biasness, which is natural, but I tried. This is a true National College Football show. And I got to tell you, a lot of people don't like a true National College Football YouTube show because they want to only hear the rah of their conference or their team. And I don't blame people that like that. Most people like that. If you come on this show and listen to this show, I might praise your quarterback. I might rip your tight end. I might say your team has fallen. I'm going to say something that upsets everybody here. I go into your silo and I rip it up. I rip it to shreds. And I think there's a lot of people who kind of watch us and they go, no, I'm not going to. Look, you look at our views at College Football Peek Around the Corner, and then you look at our subscribers. Our views are I am so thankful and humbled by the number of people that watch our show. I'm thrilled. I could not expect any. I'm absolutely thrilled, thankful, very blessed. It doesn't match the number of subscribers we have. Our subscriber base is low versus the views that we get. You watch national shows out there, they've got 5 times the subscribers we got, 10 times, 100, and they don't have the views we have. I think a lot of people watch us. They want to hear what we got to say because it's a national show, but they don't want to be married to us. They only want to date the fat guy from Minnesota, but they don't want to marry me. You see that. I've had other YouTubers constantly tell me that. Great. Why don't you have 20,000 subscribers? Why don't you have 50? I don't know. I do a lousy job of marketing. I don't do the promotions. I don't do all these things that everybody else does. And I'm a very tough listen, and I sing, and that drives people away. But other than that, it's because we're not a silo program. And people like checking out their silo YouTube channels. And there's nothing wrong with that. I check out silo. I check out team affiliated YouTube channels. They're great. If I want to hear about BYU, if I want to hear about Ohio State, if I want to hear about Minnesota, if I want to hear about Purdue, I go to Boiled Sports for Purdue. I go to these individual YouTube channels. And it's like I might be last on the list for everybody. But we do get a lot of views because eventually people want to go out of their silo to hear if, they just want to hear what we got to say. But anyway, thank you, Patron. A great phone call. I appreciate it so very much. We've got a super chat from the LSU Tiger. The LSU Tiger. Silos mean no more chump games. More money, more money. Christopher Hooter, thank you so very much for your generosity once again. It would mean more money as long as ESPN is willing to pay more money. But here's the thing. Remember, the Southeastern Conference was not going to go from 8 conference games to 9 conference games. Hold on one second.
Call from
Jim.
Jim?
Yeah, how you doing, Greg?
Good. Can you hold on for just 1 minute?
Absolutely, sir.
I got something rattling around in my brain here. So I gotta get out with it.
No worries.
Thank you for your patience. The SEC wasn't going to go from 8 conference games to 9 conference games unless ESPN paid for it. And ESPN, you heard every single year there'd be some national reporter, ESPN's not willing to pay more, ESPN's not willing to pay more, and finally they were willing to pay more. So the SEC, one of the reasons why they went to 8 to 9, they needed to get paid more, and they're going to get paid more. If they went into their own silo, ESPN might not pay more. They might not pay for 12 conference games, but somebody else will. Somebody else will pick up that extra content. And I'm not talking, possibly TNT, Warner Brothers Discovery, whoever they get sold to, which is Paramount or Netflix. And remember, Netflix is in the Holy Smokes Theater. In fact, the silo is standing over Netflix. That's why we have it on the right side and not on the left side. For now. That could change. Everybody relax. But there's a reason why we put the SEC silo on the right side. Everybody relax. There's more to the picture. There's always a little bit more to the picture, to the Holy Smokes Theater than I let on. There's other clues out there. But anyways, hold on, Jeff, just another second. We've got more super chats. I'll try to get through this. OBD Don, monster super chat. Holy smokes. Greg, some info on coals. My stockings were filled with them. So good advice on being dragged across the coals. Run cool water on those burns and get a slice of cheese as it makes a great skin graft. Wow. I can't do that.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's putting cheese on meat. That's putting cheese on meat. I cannot do that. Even though it's not going to be eaten. Well, hopefully it's not going to be eaten. OPD down, I can't do that, but thank you for the $25 holler. I appreciate it. Ryan Brooks is a member, LSU Tiger, for 26 months. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. This show is entertaining and real. There's honesty and no bias. Track record speak for itself. For accuracy. Thank you, Ryan Brooks. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the love. You are officially knighted, cloak and dagger. Love from LSU country. OPD Don, thank you for the monster super chat. Ryan Brooks, thank you so very much. Jim, I appreciate your patience. The floor is yours.
Hey, brother, listen, I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the super chats, too, helping keep you on the air for guys like me that can't always do that. I want to say thank you.
No, you got it, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, listen, one more great thing the SEC is considering, which I think none of people are talking about when they talk about going into their own silo, is that it's much easier to keep up the facade that you're the greatest conference out there when you're not playing anybody else and you're not getting your tail whipped by anybody else. If you think back the last 4 or 5 years, the SEC's had losing records against teams outside their conference, not only in pre-league play, but also in bowl games.
So what you're saying
it's
is
much easier to say that.
what you're saying is going in your own silo protects your brand, right?
Exactly. It's much easier to say that you got the top 16 of the top 20 teams when you're only playing each other. Nobody else out there kicking your tail. But when you put yourself out there, and like the Big Ten, that's what I love about the Big Ten. I'm a Big 12 fan, West Virginia fan, is that you'll play anybody anywhere. You like the old Bobby Bowden mentality. We'll play anybody anywhere, anytime. Put it on the field. Let's see how it comes out. SEC is not like that anymore. They want to stay up there. They want to keep the side going. They want to act like they're better than everybody else, which they're not anymore, because we can all pay players now, not just the SEC.
Yep.
And a lot of teams wouldn't do that. And
Yep.
if I could have the stage for just one more moment with this public stage here, I would love to just voice my opinion on the 4-4-4-4. I know it's kind of a dead horse, but I want to rest your marketing.
Yeah.
I don't know what Big Man's problem is. Also, the ACC, I agree 1,000% with you. I mean, you want to keep yourself relevant, make yourself equal with the other 4 power conferences, and solidifying 4 spots in the playoffs would keep you relevant.
Yeah.
And would help you build your brand. And you know what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
just, I wish Brett Mark would wake up and smell the roses, so to speak. But other than that, I'm gonna get off here and let you carry on.
You got it. I appreciate it, Jim. Jim, thanks for your patience, sir. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, buddy. Thank you.
You got it. Beautiful call. Again, I apologize to Jim and the rest of you callers that you call in. Sometimes I have you waiting on the phone way too long. I get on a roll, and if I don't get on that roll at the time, I'm going to lose it all, because again, I'm not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator. I can't. When I get on a roll, I have to just go with it, or I'm going to lose it all. So I thank Jim for his incredible patience. Jansen Roberts.
Call from
Tristan Fives.
Tristan 5, can you hold on for a moment, please?
Yes, I can.
I appreciate it, sir. Jansen Roberts, Big Ten huddle guy, said that the Big Ten would soon announce that all their out-of-conference games scheduled with any SEC schools would be canceled beginning in 2027 and beyond. I hope that doesn't happen, because Minnesota is going to be playing at Mississippi State next year, 2027. So I hope that doesn't happen. I have not heard that. Now, the Big Ten huddle guy does a great job, a fantastic job. Really smart dude, really good program. I was on it. He had me on a guest one time. Very good dude. So very good show to watch. I haven't heard that, but again, if the Big Ten is going to do that, like at a conference-wide thing, that means that, that means we're past DEFCON 1. We are in a nuclear war. If that would happen. I cannot say that I've heard that, but again, I hope we don't do that. I'm against all this. I'm against this war. But I can't stop it on my own. Thank you, Jansen Robert, for that comment. Hopefully I'll talk to Big Ten huddle guy here soon. Tristan 5, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Greg. Listen, I wanted to counter a little bit your last caller. He's making a great point about fans are already in a silo because, there's only so many games you can watch in a day, and you're picking which game you want to watch, and that's what you're watching. I get that. But look, when we're talking about conferences going in a silo, it's not just the regular season, right? It's also postseason. Like, there wouldn't be any kind of playoff between these teams in the postseason. Isn't that true?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. If they go in their own silo, I think the number one thing they're going to be looking at, I might be wrong on this. This is just speculation. But I think they would be looking at can we do anything outside of our conference that would harm our antitrust violation protections. Like, if we do this playoff, if we do the college football Super Bowl, Big Ten champion, SEC champion, if we have this Super Bowl among these two conferences, would that affect our ability to protect ourselves from antitrust violations? I don't know the answer to that. If it does, if it affects that, then I think you may be correct that the SEC wouldn't even have a postseason against Big Ten teams or any other teams.
Right, and that's my point. Now, I'm going to make this statement with the understanding that what you just said, I think, is the case. Like, if they go in a silo, that includes postseason, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Look, the sport of college football has been gaining in popularity the more they have adopted NFL type, what's the right word, structures, more of a larger postseason, larger playoff field. In my opinion, a lot of the interest in college football, the growth of it has come from that move from being, mostly regional games to having games where it's more of a national product. Mm-hmm. And I understand we still have conferences. I get that. We still have conferences, and there's still a lot of regional rivalry in those conferences. But you can't deny that the numbers have grown massively as we've gotten more of a playoff system that's closer to what the NFL has. And my point is, if it turns out that the silo means that they're not playing each other in the postseason too, that is going to really hurt the sport. I think they're going to lose viewers. That's my opinion. I don't know how much. It might only go down a little bit. Maybe people will say, hey, at least the regular season is still fun, and they'll watch those games. But to me, the growth of the sport is tied to the playoff that we have now. That's just how I perceive it. I don't see how anyone could deny that.
Yeah.
And if we lose that, if we're going to lose that playoff, then I think a lot of viewers that were drawn in by that are going to be turned off. So I just wanted to put in my 2 cents because I think that the playoff situation. And the other thing, too, about people saying they don't trust the SEC, hey, I don't blame them, but the main culprit in all of this is ESPN. I don't trust ESPN. And I'm looking forward to the day when the SEC has a media contract that's not exclusively with ESPN. Because I'm hoping that one day we'll get some kind of fair and balanced coverage of college football. Mm-hmm. And we can't get that right now as long as the SEC is exclusively tied into ESPN. So anyway, Greg, that's all I had to say. Thanks for letting me air my worthless opinion, and you keep up the good work.
You got it, buddy. Not a worthless opinion, though. Very good opinions. I appreciate it, Tristan 5.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
You got it, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Great call by Tristan 5. Great calls once again. Nick Kelso. Greg, does Florida State have a chance to enter the SEC, or will the presidents decline due to the way Florida State fought the ACC exit process, per Brett McMurphy's 2-year-old article? Thanks. Number one, Brett McMurphy's article came out in August, about 6 weeks after we did, or 6 to 7 weeks after we, I think in August, about 6 weeks after we did our live show, June 15th, 2024. Brett McMurphy's article was absolutely 100% accurate. But I got to tell you, before after we did our live show June 15th, 2024, after Brett McMurphy's article, and every day since, I have said that it ain't that the door is closed on Florida State and Clemson to the SEC or the Big Ten. I reported that they're not the number one targets. And I was dragged over the coals by many, including a moron, an ex, who kept telling the Florida State Seminole fan base that Florida State already had an invitation to the Big Ten. They already had a spot. They were school number 19. And he knew that that wasn't true because he knows he's a complete and total fraud. But he trolled the Florida State fan base for over a year and a half, and he completely forgot about it. And now he trolls the Florida State fan base, doing the opposite 180-degree turn. Florida State has always been a candidate, always will be a candidate, and has a great, valuable football brand, athletic department, and has an emerging research university. No door is closed on Florida State. They're just not the number one target. That doesn't mean they're not going to get in, and maybe someday they become the number one target. But they're not the number one target. And that's not a shot at Florida State. It's just how the Southeastern Conference is thinking at the time. And we believe they're still thinking of North Carolina. The Florida State definitely has a chance. They've always did have a chance. They will continue to have a chance. Anyways, that's my answer to that. There was another... shoot. Oh, Tough Tony. Go for Tony. You're against the war, but you have a missile silo in your theater. Is that the North Korean School of Diplomacy? Look, I'm against the war. I'm against the SEC and the Big Ten going in their own silos. However, the Holy Smokes Theater is not a theater of what I want to happen. The theater is showing you what is going on. The drama that is going on at the stage in the Holy Smokes Theater. So the SEC silo is on the stage, not because I want them on the stage, because they are, that silo is on the stage. So there's two, no, the North Carolina mascot is holding a basketball. Is holding a basketball, ladies and gentlemen. Not a burger. And definitely not a cheeseburger. I want to thank those who have donated to our program today to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Ricky Tungate, Christopher Huta, Skaven, yes, Amazing Blue, Opie, D. Don, and Ryan Brooks. Thank you guys so very much. I appreciate it. Wonderful phone calls once again today, and great comments in the chat room. Again, this is Thursday, February 12th. We're going to be back here tomorrow, Friday, February 13th. I got to give you my rankings of the projected starters of the Big 12. Bachmeier, number 1, probably. Brennan Sorsby, number 2, most likely. Drew Mestemaker, Oklahoma State Cowboys, I got him at number 7. Cole Ballard, Kansas, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, I got him at 16. Am I being too brutal on Cole Ballard of the Rock Chalk Jayhawks? Am I not being fair? What is going on? Devin Dampier, number 4? Number 4, Devin Dampier. Is that too high? Is that too low? We're going to talk about it. Michael Hawkins Jr., West Virginia Mountaineer. I got him at number 12. Too high? Too low? We're going to talk about it hopefully tomorrow. But I haven't quite made this list, my rankings, official. I'm having problems. I'm breaking down the tapes. And again, We're going to talk about everything in college football tomorrow, so join us. Please subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button and ring that notification bell. University of South Florida Bulls. Will they be school number 17 for the Big 12? Put down your comments. Even after we go off live here, I read all the comments even after the show is over. Buckle up, brace for impact. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peak Around the Corner, to all of you, you all have a great one. Please take care of each other. Eva Badger, will the interim chancellor have any power at Wisconsin? Thank you for the super chat, Eva Badger. I do not know. Not when it comes to Big Ten politics, but when it comes to Wisconsin, I do not know. I have no idea, but thank you for the super chat, Ryan Williams. Appreciate it so very much. Until next time, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.